And joining us now is Louisiana Farm Bureau President Ronnie Anderson. And Ronnie, thanks for being on the program. And we want to talk about the year that was as 2008 winds down. It was a mixed bag, an up and down year for Louisiana farmers. Let's go all the way back to January. Fuel prices were high, inputs were high, but commodity prices were high. How did those two things balance themselves out?
Well, we did. I had a lot of optimism, I guess it was, at the first of the year as far as commodity prices. Extremely high. We in our marketing association were working with prices that had been going up, I guess, since November, and but input costs were way up, and it was kind of a situation where people were looking at optimistically at prices, but concerned about what the input costs were going to be, and getting their crops in, and we did pretty well to start with.
Let's move ahead to the legislative session. A lot of bills involving agriculture this year. One in particular involved railroads. There have been a lot of issues of the railroads closing crossings, particularly in rural farm areas where farmers use those crossings to get into their fields. There was a bit of a victory there for Louisiana farmers this year.
We did. In years past, we've had a hard time doing anything that affected the railroad issue in the state. This past year, we were able to get a whole series of bills passed that dealt with different types of issues dealing with railroads. But our main concern is the fact that crossings were closing, and if you had a piece of property on either side of the railroad, it caused you to have to go a long distance around, get back on the state highway possibly, and causing some other safety concerns there. And we were successful. We passed a whole series of bills. But we've not seen the effect of those yet. We're trying to negotiate with the railroads now and trying to see if they'll be willing to work with us rather than to go to court. But we've made a lot of progress.
Crops really looked good out there as we went into harvest, but then along comes Hurricane Gustav, followed 13 days later by Hurricane Ike, and a lot of damage out there. Ag Center is estimating somewhere between $750 million and $1 billion. How did that affect farmers? I mean, that had to take a lot of wind out of a lot of farmers' sales.
And we were talking about the input costs and the high commodity costs. You know, at the time that those storms came through, the farmers had put just about everything into their crop that they were going to. And so they had the maximum amount of investment there, and there was a lot of potential. The crops really looked good at that time. We had wind and rain in certain areas of the state, and part of the state just had lots and lots of rain, up to 18 to 20 inches in northeast Louisiana, as you know, and we went up and visited with those folks. But it came at a terrible time for most people's commodities that were still in the fields.
A new president taking office in January 2009, a new crop year. Given the state of the country as far as the economics, you've got downturns in housing, automobiles, just about everything seems to be in a financial crisis right now. What is ahead for agriculture in 2009 as you see it?
I wish I knew. Input costs are down considerably from what they were at this time last year. Fertilizer prices are even coming down a little bit. Diesel prices are well below what they were early in the spring, but commodity prices are down also. And there's different reports about the amount of carryover, so there's some concerns that those prices will not take the bump in the spring that we normally see. And kind of cautiously optimistic, I guess, would be the best way to describe what we're looking at next year. We're concerned about the new administration from a standpoint of we don't know the individuals we're going to be dealing with yet. And it may work out to be really good, but one of our biggest concerns are the environmental side and regulations with EPA and the other things that we have to deal with besides production, agriculture, price, and inputs that can complicate agriculture production next year.
Well, Ronnie, always a pleasure to have you on the program, and I guess we'll look forward to hopefully a good 2009. Ronnie Anderson, he is the president of the Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation. When we